जय कुंज बिहारी जय। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी। जय यशोदानंदन जय ब्रजजन रंजन जय ब्रजजन रंजन। जय यमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय। जय यमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय। जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय। जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 13, chapter entitled Dhṛtarāṣṭra Quits Home, text 23. अहो mahīyasī jantor jīvita-āśā yathā bhavān bhīmāpavarjitaṁ piṇḍam ādatte gṛha-pālavat. अहो mahīyasī jantor jīvita-āśā yathā bhavān Bhīmāpavarjitam piṇḍam ādatte gṛha-pālavat aho mahīyasī jantor jīvita-āśā yathā bhavān Bhīmāpavarjita piṇḍam ādatte gṛha-pālavat.
Garland had lots of hands. So is Balaji Garland.
Okay, thank
jīvita-āśā yathā bhavān bhīmāpavarjitaṁ piṇḍam ādatte gṛha-pālavat.
Word to word meaning. Aho, alas, mahīyasī, powerful, jantoḥ, of the living beings, jīvita-āśā, hope for life, yathā, as much as, bhavān, you are, Bhīma, of Bhīmasena, a brother of Yudhiṣṭhira, apavarjitam, remnants, piṇḍam, foodstuff, ādatte, eaten by, gṛha-pālavat, like a household dog. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhayacharna Aravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation: Alas, how powerful are the hopes of a living beings to continue his life. Verily, you are living just like a household dog and are eating remnants of food given by Bhīma. Purport: a sadhu should never flatter kings or rich men to live comfortably at their cost. A sadhu is to speak to the householders about the naked truth of life so that they may come to their senses about the precarious life in material existence. Dhṛtarāṣṭra is a typical example of an attached old man in household life. He had become a pauper in the true sense, yet he wanted to live comfortably in the house of the Pāṇḍavas, of whom Bhīma especially is mentioned, because personally he killed two prominent sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, namely Duryodhana and Duḥśāsana. These two sons were very much dear to him for their notorious and nefarious activities. And Bhīma is particularly pointed out because he killed these two pet sons. Why was Dhṛtarāṣṭra living there at the house of Pāṇḍavas? Because he wanted to continue his life comfortably, even at the risk of all humiliation. Vidura, therefore, was astonished how powerful is the urge to continue life. This sense of continuing one's life indicates that a living being is eternally a living entity and does not want to change his bodily habitation. The foolish man does not know that a particular term of bodily existence is awarded to him to undergo a term of imprisonment, and the human body is awarded after many births and deaths as a chance for self-realization to go back home, back to Godhead. But the person like Dhṛtarāṣṭra tried to make plans to live there in a comfortable position with profit and interest. for they do not see things as they are. Dhṛtarāṣṭra is blind and continues to hope to live comfortably in the midst of all kinds of reverses of life. A sadhu like Vidura is meant to awaken such a blind person and thus help them to go back home, to go back to Godhead, where life is eternal. Once going there, no one wants to come back to this material world of miseries. We can just imagine how responsible a task is entrusted to a sadhu like Mahātmā Vidura. Om Ajnānatimirandhasya Jnānāñjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Ruta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanmitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanmitamscha Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatadeshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratuse Nama He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Tarevacha Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I welcome all the devotees for this morning Bhagavatam discussion. I'm not qualified to sit here, and especially topic like this, senior devotees should sit and discuss. However, as a service, I was telling Ashar Gopal Prabhu, but still he said, no, you can speak. So I beg mercy from all of you, blessings of all of you, so that I can discuss on this verse for my own purification and for the glorification of the Lord, and it should be giving pleasure to all of you. So, as we know, this section of Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very popular to bring out detachment in a person. It's a really very heavy chastisement by Vidurji to his brother Dhṛtarāṣṭra. I remember in our voice days, on weekends we used to sit with the devotees and prove what we'll read from Bhagavatam. So mainly there were a few topics like this is the one, or fifth canto where teachings of Rishabdev, or forest of material enjoyment, or teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, so or teachings of Lord Kapila, those things. So these are the sections which brings out detachment within a person. Like in that Ratnamala, backside there is a shloka given that Vedas, they instruct like a master. Then Puranas, they instruct like a friend. And the poetic composition, they instruct like a lover. So Srimad Bhagavatam includes all three. They instruct like a master, they instruct like a friend, and also like a lover. So these are the some sections which are like master kind of instruction. They are giving the root cause of living entities suffering in this material world, and trying to bring them to the senses and trying to give them eternal life. So if somebody read these kind of sections, many times there will be, sometimes people will have depression also, or inferiority complex, or they may have tension also. Okay, I have to give up these things. Eventually, I am trying to build so many things, and eventually I have to give up those things also. So that may build a tension. But when devotee was mentioning, rather than feeling those tension or depress or inferiority complex, one should feel humble that I am in this situation, and these acharyas are so great. They are, out of their mercy, they are giving this, they are opening this naked truth about the life. Like we see that their glorification of Srila Sukdev Goswami. Sutta Goswami mentions that, yes, Swanubhavam Akila, that shloka comes that Samsarinam Karunaya Purana Guhyam. This Bhagavatam is given out of their causeless mercy, Karuna. For whom? For the people who are in general suffering in this material world. So rather this, instead of becoming depressed, we should be humble and beg for the mercy of the Lord that I am in this situation now, I want to move ahead, move forward towards Krishna. So we should see it in that way. Like our Srila Prabhupada is really very expert spiritual master. He has given both the things about the cruelty of Maya and sweetness of Krishna. Both the things he has given, and so that otherwise what will happen if somebody just mentions the cruelty of the material world, that material world is a place of suffering, it's dukkha, one will be really inactive, or he may be just kind of hard-hearted or mayavadi, escapism. And so that is one. And if somebody just hears the sweet pastimes of Krishna, then there is a tendency that one may become sajya also. So our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, he has very nicely given the balanced approach where there is a cruelty of material world is mentioned, and also the sweetness of Krishna is mentioned. Like one time, one Prabhupada disciple, he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, we find that practically every pages of your book, we find that material world is a temporary, material world is a place of suffering, sense gratification is bad, don't do sense gratification. Practically every purport you are writing that. So Prabhupada smiled and asked him, still you have not managed, still you are not managing your desire, still you are looking for sense gratification. See how powerful is Maya. So like that he was mentioning. So, so if somebody, let's say, like Chaitanya Charan Prabhu very nicely mentions, there are three levels. One is irresponsible, second is materially responsible, and third one is spiritually responsible. So Prabhuji was mentioning that if you find like modern day scenario, most of the time people are, like West or other countries, irresponsible level. They it's a degree of selfishness reduces. So somebody is irresponsible, he's just with his own self. He doesn't want to extend his relationship. So somebody is irresponsible, like I know some of people, like their age is 30th, 39, but still they don't want to get married, and they are not devotees. They don't chant, nothing. One time, like I and Jivita, we were going to Vrindavan also. That time one person was sitting and he was into share market and all, and he was mentioning same, I am also brahmachari. I said, what do you practice? He said, no, I don't do anything. I just do Hanuman Chalisa. But I have told my mother that I am not going to get married. I have enough money. I will take care of you also, and I want to live comfortable life, like that. So like that, there are many people. So, Prabhuji was mentioning that the moment we add people or relationship in our life, the responsibility increases. One has to not just think about himself, but he has to think about others also, and there is a hard work. So if this kind of irresponsible people hears the message of Bhagavatam, and especially this kind of section that we have to detach from this world, so they will take the undue advantage, or they will misunderstand and claim themselves, we are also practicing Bhagavatam. So that way. So that is irresponsible. Then second level is of materially responsible. So somebody maybe now he's taking care, living as per the scriptures, maybe not practicing just spirituality, service to Supreme Lord, but just the materially he's doing well, he's taking care of his family or taking care of his duties. So for that person, the scriptures, now there is something more. Your responsibility is not just related to matter, it is even to the Supreme Lord. So that should be irresponsible. Then next is the materially responsible, and there is a spiritually responsible. So scriptures forces one that one should be responsible even spiritually and serve the Supreme Lord. So in this section, in this text and purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning about the Dhṛtarāṣṭra. So this, in the translation, it is mentioned, alas, how powerful are the hopes of living entity being to continue his life. So, and Prabhupada below mentions that, why was Dhṛtarāṣṭra living there at the house of Pāṇḍavas? Because he wanted to continue his life of comfortably, even at the risk of all humiliation. So, what kind of humiliation Dhṛtarāṣṭra had undergone? Now we can understand that he himself tried to kill Pāṇḍavas in many of the ways. He took away their kingdom, and now war also took place. It was many personalities advised him that stop this war, you can stop it, but being he was undue attachment for Dhṛtarāṣṭra, for Duryodhana, he continued war also. And then in the war, now all of his sons are died, and he's the only one living, he and his wife. So, and they are now taken care by the Pāṇḍavas. So it's a war, it's a fight, and ego clashes, many things. Still, he's now taking hospitality from those same people who has killed his sons, and there was a fight between them. So like we see, like at least I have seen at my home what used to happen whenever my sister would do something, so mother would chastise and so she would not eat or drink for 3-4 hours, 8 hours, or whatever mother would cook. And even we see, like sometimes there is a two families living a village, bhavān we call. So if there is any clash between them, we have seen that for the sometimes generations, or at least for years, they will not talk with each other. They will not take their food, water, or attend any of the programs. So that is what, even at the ego level, forget about spiritual, even ego level. So if we see Dhṛtarāṣṭra, even there is not any ego level tussle. He is just living comfortably at the house of Pāṇḍavas. And from this also we can understand that what a great character of Pāṇḍavas. They were given such a treatment by Dhṛtarāṣṭra. Still they never Still they never did anything which will hurt Dhṛtarāṣṭra. In the sense, he was living comfortable, and we hear that every day the Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj, he will go to Dhṛtarāṣṭra, bow down to him, not take his blessings. So that was the beautiful nature of a devotee, Pāṇḍavas. And so Prabhupada, so this one fact is mentioned here, that with all humiliation, still he wanted to live there very comfortably. And so Viduruji is pointing out and criticizing this thing, that you are still not preparing yourself for the next life. You are still want to enjoy. In previous verse we see that he is called as a king, Rajan, although he is not that way. So, and then from this thing, Prabhupada mentions that living entity has this desire to continue, to doesn't want to change his bodily habitation, which means that the soul is eternal. It does not die. Now it just changes the body. And Prabhupada is mentioning here that how the human life is so rare. We received it after so many births and death, and it should be utilized for the self-realization. So this purport mentions about two things. One is about Dhṛtarāṣṭra, one who is attached, and other thing also mentions about a sadhu. Who is a sadhu? So Prabhupada first place only says that sadhu should never flatter kings or rich men to live comfortably at their cost. So basically, who is a sadhu? So in lectures and purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that actual sadhu is a devotee of Krishna, pure devotee of Krishna. And in third canto also, where Lord Kapil Dev is instructing Mother Devahuti, the verse comes that Titikshava karunika suruda sarvadehinam ajata shatrava shanta sadhava sadhu bhushana. So sadhu he's a tolerant, he's a karunika, he's a compassionate, he's a suruda, he's a well-wisher of all dehi, all the living entities. He's ajata shatrava, he doesn't have any enemy, and he's a shanta. So out of compassion, now we see devotees, they try to preach this message of Krishna consciousness. They see that the living other people, those who are not connecting with Krishna, those who are not serving Krishna, they are very unhappy, morose in this world. They are just running behind the mirage of happiness, which they will not get. So that's why they feel very compassionate for those people. Like we see that when Parikshit Maharaj, now there is a discussion between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukdev Goswami. So Parikshit Maharaj is about to die within 7 days. And when there is a fifth canto is described, where all the different places, Swargaloka, earthly planets, Patal Loka, and hellish planets are explained. So when Parikshit Maharaj, who himself is about to die, who has such a pain, tragedy in his life, still that time, when he hears this, that the living entities has to suffer in the hellish planets, so from his heart comes out compassion for all those. And then he asks Sukadev Goswami that, what is the remedy, how one can avoid or save oneself from going to hell? So this way we see that the devotees are always karunika. They are always looking for the welfare of other living entities. So same way Vidurji also was looking for the welfare of Dhṛtarāṣṭra and spoke these verses. So little bit we'll see about Vidurji also. So we know that Vidurji, he's a Yamaraj actually, and he wanted some break. Enough of now punishing the people who is committing sins. Let me also glorify the Supreme Lord and preach his message. So Lord arranges, and through Mandavya Muni, he get curse, and he becomes as a Dasiputra, Vidurji. So from here we can see that now when he was as a Dasiputra in the Kaurava Pāṇḍavas family there, so he was giving many times advice to Dhṛtarāṣṭra also for many things, but his advice was not taken so seriously. Or we see that when he gave that advice about, and he spoke about the Duryodhana, so Duryodhana very heavily chastised or drive him away from the palace just on his breath. So Vidurji, being such a person in the Yamaloka, where his words have the ultimate judge there. His words have the lot of weight and power. But same Vidurji, when comes here, he has same Yamarajji comes here as a Vidurji. There is a low profile. He doesn't. There is no one listening to him. And then he takes it as a Lord's mercy, and he goes away from the palace and does many pilgrimages. So now when he goes, he was one of the minister or brother. But when now he returns back after battlefield and all, and he knew now all the Kauravas, all the 100 sons of Dhṛtarāṣṭra, they have died now. And then the war has over. The Pāṇḍavas, they have become kings of the world. So when he returns, now he returns as a sadhu, preacher, not just the blood relative. And that time he was very nicely received by Pāṇḍavas. He was given all comforts. And then after that, after the very well guest reception, Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj, he asked about the Dwarkavasis. Now what had happened? The Dwarkavasis, there was a motion lila where all the Yadus, they fought amongst themselves, and the Yadu dynasty annihilated. So that was the thing, but still we see in text 13 that Vidurji, he doesn't tell about that incident, because he knew that if Pandava hears this news, they cannot digest it, or they will go through a lot of pain and suffering. Okay, so because of that, he didn't speak anything about that. And now same Vidurji, he was such a sensitive about the feelings of Pandavas. Just after 4 verses, he starts speaking such a heavily. Now we see to the Dhṛtarāṣṭra, because that was needed for him. So this is the way the devotee of the Lord, whatever is a necessity or required, he gives to a person. And now we see the same Vidurji in 3rd canto, when he was on his pilgrimages. So he meets Uddhava, and when he meets Uddhava, that time he asks about the instruction. And Uddhavji, he's out of Maryada, being in the boundaries of, he didn't want to do Maryada Vatikram, so he guides him to Maitreya Muni. And when Vidurji goes to Maitreya Muni, and when he asks, there is a discussion. So now Vidurji could have directly asked about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, but then he, taking into considerations all common people, he asked about the very basic questions to begin with. Why people want happiness in this world, they are acting, but instead of happiness, they get more and more entanglement. And then he glorifies that how the preacher of the Lord, or the devotee of the Lord, tries to give the mercy through the instructions. So that verse comes that Janasya Krishnat Vimukhasya Devat Adharmashilasya Sudukhitasya Anugrahaye Charanti Nunam Bhutani Bhavyani Janardhanasya. He mentions that the souls like you, great souls like you, they travel across the world to give the people the message of Krishna consciousness. And these people are suffering because they are vimukhasya daivat. They have turned away their face from Krishna. So these great souls, they do this philanthropic work to bring them closer to Krishna. That is the devotee. So that is the sadhu. So this is real sadhu who works for others. For what? To bring them closer to Krishna. That is his only concern. We see even Parikshit Maharaj in 1st canto, in 19th chapter, it comes that Punascha bhuyat bhagavati anante ratim prasangat tad ashraeshu mahatsu yamyam upayami srushti maitristu sarvatra namo dvijebhya. So that place also Parikshit Maharaj asked about 3 things. Bhagavati, Anante Rati, Rati for the Supreme Lord. Then he says Prasanga means association of devotees, and Maitri with all the living entities. Now we may say, why Maitri with all the living entities? Why not only with the devotees of the Lord? So why? Because if he has a friendship with all the living entities, then he can bring them closer to Krishna. That is his motive. So that he can preach the message of Krishna consciousness. He can bring people. Similarly, we see even Lord Shiva. We see his attire, all the ashes around, or snake around, or he is living in the smashana bhumi. So why? Because he can preach to particular class of people, like our devotees, they go for college preaching. So we don't go in dhoti kurta in the hostel. we go in pant shirt. So that way. So that is the concern of a devotee. So now, moving ahead in the Purport, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning about the sadhu, how he should preach. No, he should not. I will again read. A sadhu should never flatter kings or rich men to live comfortably at their cost. A sadhu is to speak to the householders about the naked truth of life, so that they may come to their senses about the precarious life in the material existence. As I was mentioning, that the sadhu's main business is, his main concern is to bring people to Krishna. Now, it can be any way. It can be by the cutting words, like what Dhṛtarāṣṭra is being chastised here by Vidurji. Or it can be even by the loving words, very sweet words, like we hear one pastime that I guess Shama Sundar Prabhu, he was like before coming to devotees, and we know that it was hippie culture there. So he was arrested by police for his drug dealings, and before that he had met with Prabhupada and then did some 1-2 programs also with Prabhupada. He attended those programs, and there was some kind of contact. So, and suddenly this Sham Sundar Prabhu, he was arrested by police for the drug dealing, and he was put in the jail, inside the jail. And that time, so it was 1 week, 2 week, and Sham Sundar Prabhu wanted to call Prabhupada, and he was fearful also to mention, because he didn't want to hurt Swamiji, now mentioning this. So still with a lot of courage, he calls Prabhupada from jail, from the jail, and he calls Prabhupada and says, Swamiji, I am inside the jail. So he says that I'm arrested due to this drug smuggling, like that. So Prabhupada very lovingly says, oh, you are caught in drug smuggling. I was also a drug dealer. So yes, we know Prabhupada was a drug dealer. He was Prayag pharmacy, that is also not drugs, whatever. And then he says, yes, Swamiji, but what, I am in the jail. Oh, you are in the jail. Krishna also born inside the jail, don't worry. So like that, and then he gave all comfort to him, Sham Sundar Prabhu, and then this is a acceptance. What we see here is acceptance, and then he understood, Swamiji still respect, or he's going to accept me. So when he comes out of the jail, that time he once again start fully serving Prabhupada. So this way we say that the sadhu will use maybe cutting words or loving words, but that is ultimate end result achieve is to bring them closer to Krishna. Cutting that attachment is like transferring person's attachment from matter to spirit, from material world to the spiritual world. We also hear that there is we hear in, I think it's a 5th canto, fourth canto story, Puranjan story. So now if Narad Muni would have spoke directly about that king, your life is like this, he will not have accepted. There is a ego clashes there. Ego will be crushed. So with other way he mentions his story, but taking some other names that way. So, and then we see ultimately he also comes to the devotional path. So sadhus either harsh words, cutting words, or loving words, or some narrations, or even curse. So that is like we see Narad Muni is cursing Nalakuber and Manigriv. So that is ultimately, he cursed them, and then what happened? They got birth. They became a trees and took birth in the Nanda Bhavan, Nanda Bhavan's courtyard, and he got liberation. So we see that even that is a curse, and there is a boon also by sadhu, that is also for his upliftment. Like we see Narad Muni giving boon to Chitraketu Maharaj, that yes, you will have a son. Son's name will be Harsha Shoka. He will give you Harsha and Shoka, both the things. And then what we know that after the son dies, and then lot of detachment come to the Chitraketu Maharaj hearts. So that way the end result is achieved. Na? So that way. Then we see even they, sadhu may avoid material benedictions or give the process to attain that. Like we see Narad Muni giving the process to Dhruva Maharaj. And then same Dhruva Maharaj, after his tapasya, when he sees, he gets the darshan of the Lord, then he forgets all about the material pleasure, and he just wants to serve, or he condemns even having the material desire. So that is the way sadhu speaks, either by his words or by his actions, or giving any boon, curse, benediction. That is the way. So I was hearing one wonderful pastimes or discussion about Hanumanji. So how the devotee speaks very perfectly to encourage a person in Krishna consciousness or in his service to the Supreme Lord. So the example is given about the Hanumanji. So when Sugriva told all the monkey armies to go and search for Mother Sita, so they went around all the directions, but they still could not find. And when they were towards Sri Lanka side, where the towards ocean that side, so all the monkeys, they were really very fearful now, or they were very depressed that even after doing so much of efforts, we are unable to find Mother Sita. And and then some or other from Sampati, they comes to know that Mother Sita is being taken by Ravana to the other side of ocean. And then they see huge ocean, that now who will be crossing that ocean? So they said we cannot do it. So they were very depressed. So that time Hanumanji says that he boasts about himself that I have that power, I can do it, don't worry. So like that he was encouraging all the monkey, all the Vanaras to serve the Lord. And when he reached to other side, when he reached to the Lanka, Ashokvatika meets Mother Sita. So that time Mother Sita asked, are these monkeys, Vanaras can they come to such a far place? Can they jump? So that time, same Hanumanji mentions that, oh, I am just a messenger. The most weak person in the army is sent for is given the task of messengership. So he is given, and I am one, so at least there is no one below me. Everybody is above me, or at least they have power equal with, their powers are equal to me. So like that. So same Hanumanji is speaking in different incidents, the different things which will encourage a person for service of the Lord, or that way. So this how the sadhu also speaks. Whatever he speaks, it's out of compassion to bring person closer to Krishna. So when we hear this kind of sections, there is also sometimes, as I was mentioning, there is a depress or inferiority complex. So once I was asking this question, online we had class by His Grace Mahātmā Prabhupada disciple. So I was asking him, Prabhuji, we hear so many places and about how a devotee should be, what should be his consciousness and how he should be doing. And there is a lot of expectation kind of thing. So I feel very depressed what to do about it. So he said, actually, he was mentioning that we don't have to see it as our depressed condition or low condition. Rather, we should keep it as a benchmark. I have to go here, and we should be happy for that. Like one time, there was a class by His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj at Mafatlal Bungalow, and one of the voice devotee, he asked question to Maharaj. There was question answer session, and he was asking Maharaj, I fear to hear your lectures. So Maharaj was laughing and asking why, what happened? Maharaj, you again and again says, Trunadapi suniche na tharorapi sahishnuna amaninda manadena kirtaniya sadhari. So after hearing this, and I am not that, so I feel very fearful. So Maharaj laughed for 1-2 minutes and he said, oh, you fear for that. So Maharaj again told same thing, that it's if you don't understand what is the bhakti and standard of bhakti, then how will go there? Now, whatever position we are, at whatever level we are, we have to move ahead forward. So those benchmark we have to keep. And so I was just contemplating, like we have very wonderful Vaishnav song that Kabe Habe Bolo Say Din Amar. Na? So how the people outside world, they have a dreams that when if I will become engineer from very reputed institute, let's say IIT, or I will get job in Microsoft, or I will have BMW, or I will. So how they plan or they release those even dreams. So as a devotee, we can also think that, oh, when that day will be mine, I will have I will not have any offensive attitude, or I will respect all the Vaishnavas, or that day will be so nice that I will have no more material desire, and I will just have desire to serve Krishna, desire to serve Vaishnavas, or no, that way. Or when that day will be mine, like we have seen those pictures, Krishna embracing that Gopakumar after his return from the spiritual world. When that day will be mine, that Krishna will embrace me, and oh, we have suffered enough now in the material world. Now don't think of going back. So if we keep those things, so these sections, what we are hearing, so actually it gives us that impetus that to revive our that original consciousness. So yes, these are the strong sections, but if we keep this as a benchmark, then we can humbly accept our positions and look the benchmark as when that day will be mine, that I will serve Krishna wholeheartedly without any material motives. So thank you very much. Any devotees have any comments, please? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki, Granthiraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Very